Hello? Hello. All right, I can hear myself. Well, thank you, Jaron, for that wonderful introduction. And more importantly, the prayer, wasn't that awesome? You know, practitioners have this level of consciousness that comes through when you hear them speak, when they share these words, and you feel them, more than just the audio of the words. It's the feeling of that. So thank you for blessing us with the prayer. And Bob and Fonnie, put your hands together one more time. Couldn't have picked a better song for We Are the Ones We've Been Waiting For, which is the title of my speech today. But before we begin, what I'd like to do is, can we just take a moment of silence for the people of the Bahamas? If you feel called, just rest your eyes and see everything working out. See the assistance that's coming for them. Send them the light. Send them the love. Know that even with the loss of life, that there just isn't going to be too much suffering. That the rescue is at hand. And if we can just have a moment of silence and just see the love and send it to them. Thank you. How important it is that we may not know just how powerful a small prayer like this could be for somebody in a different part of the world. We're not taught, we're not realized that the innate consciousness that we share, even as an individual, how we can make a difference. We are the ones that can make this difference. Our system, our culture, our upbringing doesn't enable us or allow us to know that we are a conscious being that has this power. And when we come together, not only individually but collectively, we can change the world. Now, many of you who were here during my last presentation, I shared some of these consciousness experiments. Lynn McTaggart, which she got together, I think it was something like 16,000 prayer practitioners and meditators throughout the world from 52 different countries and focused on a war-torn area, 25-year-long war in an area near Sri Lanka. And within a matter of a short period of time, the war had a peaceful ending. And a lot of people say, well, that was just a fluke. That's just a coincidence. And if you look at the research that's out there, there's lots of it. You can Google it. Princeton is probably one of the more comprehensive. They have the Global Consciousness Project, and they have a lot of data of the effects that we have on changing the world consciously. Even when science is now telling this, quantum physics is telling us that everything that we believed before, that we are connected, and we have this energetic connection to being able to make a difference. But we're not trained that way. We're brought up in a system where it's kind of like the many elect the few, hoping that they will carry out the wishes of the peace, the love, the harmony, the togetherness, a planet that is thriving, that we're not just, stealing all the resources, not for profit, but for the people, for the animals, for the ecosystem, for humanity. And that system is the system that we're so used to, and sometimes we feel it just doesn't work for us. And then we get divided because we fight about our favorite team. It's so amazing how we tend to take sides. Maybe not a spiritual community like this, but we tend to have that. We tend to take sides. And I know I have at times. We have our favorite team, we have our favorite political party, and we realize, like I said before, it doesn't matter who's in the White House, it matters what's in our house. As conscious beings, we can take this process of the masses that elect a few that wishfully, hopefully change, we can use the consciousness to heal this planet. Do you believe me? Yes. Yes. It's kind of like the old fairy. It's the Grinch who stole Christmas. Remember the Grinch? Here you've got this controlling individual, the Grinch, and we can kind of parallel that to whatever we feel is controlling in our life. Whether we feel it's another individual that's close to us, whether we feel it's a system, we can say, there's the Grinch. We can point out that Grinch. And just like in A Grinch Who Stole Christmas, if you remember the scene where he grabbed every single present, he wanted to destroy their spirit. And I think it was, little Cindy Lou Who was the last one. And the very last lie was when he was trying to take the Christmas tree. There was a light out on this, and I'm going to go fix it. How many times in our society have we thought there was a truth, but it was really a lie? And yet, as the scene carried forward, the Grinch didn't steal the hearts of Christmas, the hearts of humanity, the hearts of you and I. They sang with all their hearts. Bahudores, I couldn't translate that. I don't know what it means. I don't know Whoville language. But it couldn't stop that. Instead, remember what happened in the movie? The very nature, the very spirit of the individuals transformed who? The Grinch. And this is just a story, but this is the power that we have. The data is out there, the research is out there. When you have people that are dedicated to the study of practitioners, can the practitioners kind of raise their hands so everybody else knows who the other practitioners are? Okay, they dedicate their time. So if you're looking for prayer, if you're looking for something you need to overcome, or something maybe that you just need a little help with, sitting with a practitioner will definitely help raise the vibration. It's like Nikola Tesla says, if you want to understand the universe, think of it in terms of energy, vibration, and frequency. And that was certainly a person ahead of his time. Would you agree? And another famous quote is Einstein's quote, if we want to solve the problem, we have to raise our level of thinking. The solution is at another level of thinking, another level of consciousness, that where the problem was created. And I think that we are the ones in this planet, in this world, in this community, that can actually make that difference. Now, how do we go about doing that? Well, it starts with home. Just like Dorothy says, there's no place like home. We have the magic slippers, we have the key, we have the ability, but we start with home. We need to heal ourselves first. We need to practice that self-love. We need to tell ourselves that we love. We need to recognize the divinity and the sacredness within us. We may have been conditioned to seek the hero, the savior, the thing outside of us to change or to save us. We can see what we say is the good or the bad, but ultimately when we recognize the divinity and the power, the fact that we have this same sacred essence within us, regardless of what we were brought up with and what we were trained, we get this knowing that we have this power, this divinity within us. Recognizing that within us gives us the ability to recognize that within other people. And fundamentally, one of the best things I think to start off with is just realizing that everything is here to serve us. That the universe is good. It's a positive mental attitude thing. And a lot of people say, well, positive mental attitude doesn't work. It helps. Try negative mental attitude. Positive mental attitude definitely helps. And even when you have things that don't work out your way, to see that perhaps they really are. Now this morning I decided I was going to spend some extra time and comb my hair. Albert got the laugh. But here's the situation. A while ago, when I came home, I normally just use a razor, and if my hair gets too long and I miss a few, you probably understand this, a few times with a razor and it gets longer and it's stubble and it's long, I need to use this thing called a buzzer. I don't know what I call it, but Fonnie bought it for me. It's like a professional barber kit, and you can put these different ends on it. And once I shave it down, then I can take the razor, and I can bring myself back to the normal baldness, which is what I want. Well, one day I come home, and my little daughter Ashley decided to shave the cat. Guess what she used? And she said that the cat actually loved it. But if you look inside the bathroom walls in the door, I mean, it's like, it's like the signs show you that the cat didn't like this. But if you look at this cat, everything, his name's Tiger. Everything is like not perfect. There's still some hair on the tail and the head, but it was like, anyways, hopefully the cat wasn't too traumatized. And ironically, as I looked at this buzzer thing that I used to, it is loaded with cat hair. And Tiger and I, amazingly, Tiger and I probably have very similar coloring. I've got the white of the stripes with my gray that I have, and of course, a little bit of, I guess, Tiger's color. But I decided, and this, of course, I was upset in a moment. When things happen, sometimes you just don't know how to deal with it. And so what I needed to do is I needed to solve this problem. And I searched because I had to find a very small screwdriver. Anybody who deals with electronics, right? Electronics is not the big Phillips head. It doesn't work. You got to find this very small screwdriver. And as I searched, I opened a box that had the screwdriver in it, and underneath that box was some paperwork that I had been looking for a very long time. Very important paperwork. Many people who know I'm a Toastmaster, and Toastmasters, you work on speeches, and then you got to submit awards, and I had all these like 20 speeches that I had documented, and I had somebody check off, and I had finished them, and I had lost my paperwork. 3-4 years had gone by. It's like, how do you redo those speeches? I found a screwdriver to fix my little buzzing machine, and underneath it was the document that I had been looking for all this time. So sometimes life, you think it's a problem, but sometimes it's bringing you forward. Fonnie and I, we shared this story because years ago, she was at a particular place where she had been singing, and something happened. Without going into the details, she lost the opportunity. It was disappointing. And even I was disappointed too at that time. Loving people, but she no longer had the opportunity. As we look at it from this perspective, she would not be doing what she does today. She was singing in one venue once a week. Now she's a professional singer. She's booked pretty much almost every day of the week. And it blossomed her. So it is almost to look at something for what it is and be blessed and grateful that it happened. And I know in the moment we struggle with that. But that's number one, how do we shift consciousness? How do we become the vibration that raises humanity? I think fundamentally is just to see that everything is always working out for us. That the universe has always got our back. Let's say that together. Everything is always working out for us. Yes. Yes. So that's number one. Number one is to be able to see the gifts that are always there and to recognize them. Number two is that we sometimes have to forgive those things that didn't go so right. And maybe even recognize the gift in it. Forgiveness, the other side of forgiveness is really our sacred awakening. The forgiveness, the whole thing for that is we have that ability just in doing that practice to raise our vibration. And if we've ever had something or someone or whatever in our past that is still bothering us, it is something that we do basically for who? That person? No, we're really doing it for ourselves because that's where the liberation happens. That's where the liberation happens. Mark Twain says that forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet expresses onto the foot that stepped on it. Well, I don't know if you have many people trudging through your garden of violets, but in essence, it's more than that. It's the thing that we release so we can be more whole and present in our life and in other people's lives. We can serve the universe better. We can serve humanity better when we have let go anything that is bothering us. There's a book that's a very popular spiritual book. It's called Your Soul's Path by Robert Schwartz. I don't know if anybody's read that. So anyways, Robert Schwartz is a person who's more of a scientist, bit of a skeptic, doesn't get into all the spiritual stuff, but was doing a project that later became a book. And what he did was he took select cases of individuals that went through trauma or difficulty, whether it was relationship or event that happened, but it was something that was distinct. And then he took 5 independent psychics. Now, he was a skeptical person going out and trying to find people who have a gift. And these were people that had worked with police, finding lost and missing people. They were already proven to have some sort of an ability to tap in, to see, to understand. And they were all independent. None of them knew each other. They were not only in this country, but they were in other countries. But he decided he wanted data that was pure, so he didn't want them talking to each other. And he would present these cases of these individuals with this trauma, with this drama, with all of these difficulties. Each one would come back with basically the same explanation, the same scenario. That person chose this opportunity to be able to awaken, to be able to forgive, to be able to let go. Because as they can heal themselves, they became a healer within the world. A healer, a teacher, a change maker. Everybody you see that is out there being able to help others went through something themselves. Quite often, people that work in psychiatry dealt with depression. Would you get financial advice from somebody who was born, inherited like $1 billion, or somebody who maybe went through bankruptcy a few times and then through their struggles they figured out a system and a way to be able to create prosperity? It would be the second person. So what was discovered was quite often these difficulties, and we still have free will. We can choose not to forgive. We can choose to forgive. We can choose to avoid, or we can address it. But forgiveness happens with ourselves because that's where liberation truly happens. And not only that, if we can forgive, it allows us to be clear and loving and more appreciating to others and to other situations. A good example of this, and the whole area of being able to forgive, is they say when you have what's called that knee-jerk reaction to an event that just suddenly pops up. How many people have ever gotten cut off on a road? Right? All right. And what does that do? Oh, that jerk. We don't know who that person is. It's just a car. We may have been in their blind spot. But it's that knee-jerk reaction is kind of that litmus test for our enlightenment. It's almost like spirits looking down and like, oh, let's put another car in front of them, see where they're at. They've been doing their spiritual work. Oh, they gave them half a peace sign. Maybe that's a symbol for we're one. But that's true. I mean, that's basically when something pops up like that, where are we? And that's a lot to do with our inner work, our spiritual development, our forgiveness, our patterns that are within us. And when we have a moment like that, again, we don't even know who's driving that car. We don't know their situation. And of course, we could have been in their blind spot. But if it is that thing that comes up. We all have that moment that pops up. And when we check in with ourselves, oh, I still got something. I still got something. Like, does the Dalai Lama, if he gets cut off in traffic, I don't even know if he drives, but Albert, put that on your to-do list. Find a Dalai Lama, find out what he drives, cut him off. But if you know, does this make sense? It's those little things that come up. If something irks us, whether it's a person that we feel pushes our buttons, again, who put the buttons there, right? It's our buttons. They're pushing them. Let's talk about the buttons. If it's something outside, you know, we sit in front of the TV set and we see something on the political arena or the global arena and it irks us, it's shining a light back on the very thing that we still need to work on. Become whole. Where do we need to work on? Because what's raising up in us? You know, if we can change our consciousness, we have, as an individual, as a community, the ability to shift this world into the direction we want to shift it. More love, more peace, more joy, more prosperity, fairness and just for everyone. Countries that get along. No separation. And we may identify, of course, with diversity. We may be blessed with diversity, whether we have a different race, different country of origin. We may have so many different things, but when we realize we're really spirit having human experience, in many ways we're truly what? Genderless, raceless, without labels. But it's here in this frontier called Earth School that we get to practice what we call the differences. And we can either come from a respect and a value and appreciation, or being able to get caught up in the differences. But it comes from that work. Now, I get, sometimes when I'm speaking in front of business groups, I change my language a little bit based on, you know, who I'm speaking to. Maybe a little bit more of a spiritual phrase here, maybe more of a business phrase here. And for me, I don't do necessarily a lot of marketing. I have a website, but for the most part, it's kind of one of those things where every now and then I pray, and it's, you know, spirit, divine, higher self, put me in front of the right people at the right time, make it work, and be grateful that it's already happened, and release it and let it go. And I did that the other day, and this is a couple months ago, and I got my phone rang, and my caller ID said, the U.S. federal court system. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to take this. I'm working with the law, but not that law. And of course, I took the phone, and they're like, we just went to your website. We're putting together a conference. And literally from the time I got this phone call to where the conference was, it was like only a little bit more than a month away. So they wanted a speaker. They had gone to my website, and I was like so happy. And they're explaining that we're from the U.S. federal court system of the Virgin Islands. And we want to put on a conference in San Juan, and we looked at your website, and it looks like you have everything that we need. And then, of course, I said, do you want music for your entertainment too? I always try to throw funny. They're like, oh, no, we weren't planning that, but we'll pay for her as well. And the weird thing is when I'm in conversation with people, I'm there to serve. I'm there to learn. But sometimes, every now and then, like a price comes up. And this price had come up, and I was like, kind of had that cringe, like, I've never charged that before, so I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to charge that. And of course, I throw it to them, and they're like, oh, that's fine. And they paid for Fani, and they put us up in a very beautiful hotel, and it was a lot of fun. Here's the thing. There are 2 U.S. court systems. They belong to the one, but they're from 2 different islands, St. Martin and St. Croix, I think it was. 2 saints. And there's struggle. And as I had a hard time putting together the exact program for them, because I always survey people beforehand. What's your biggest challenges? What's your needs? I can bring motivation. What is it that will help best serve? And this is like an all-day conference. Did you get stung? Oh, no. We got a bee there. A wasp.
What's the ruling, gang? Kill it. Let it go. It'd be food for. The circle of life.
Well, at least nobody will get stung.
Nobody gets stung.
Okay. So anyways, when I was down there, we had kind of put together the morning part of this and didn't have a very good plan for the afternoon part. And as lunch broke, Fani and I were sitting next to each other, and she's like, well, what are you going to say for the afternoon? I'm like, I really, really, really don't know. Because I basically went through pretty much all the material. And we had some other things, but what we had discovered in the morning activities was there was a lot of tension between these groups. They had gone through, a major hurricane. They were without power for like 3 to 4 months. They were still getting over, a lot of, they're also have the same demands on them as the U.S. court system does. But they have fewer people. They don't get to see each other. They hadn't seen each other, these 2 groups hadn't seen each other in over 3 years. And there were federal judges in the room, too. We couldn't take pictures. So people were like, they looked at the pictures on Facebook. We see Ron, but we don't see an audience. We were told you can't take pictures. Anyhow, in the afternoon session, we decided to do a bit on appreciation. Appreciation is, in a working environment, is a term which relates to love in our environment. But you can't use the word love. You can't say I love you to your boss. You have other problems that could occur from that. But you can say I appreciate you. And so all we did was in the afternoon, we went over every single thing that they had. But before we even did that, we started with everybody just getting up, standing in front of the other person, looking at them in the eyes, taking a deep breath, saying their name, and saying, I appreciate you. And then the other person has to feel that, say thank you, take a deep breath, and then exchange it backwards. In that session, and on top of that, and Bob would like this, because we said, well, we need background music. And on my laptop, I found this little light of mine, I'm going to make it shine. And everybody got up, and there were tears, there were hugs, there was laughter, there was the whole tension was transmuted and broken down. We solved some major problems, but we did it first by honoring the person and being able to share something as simple as appreciation. Take a moment right now. Just turn to the person next to you, just quickly, and just say, I appreciate you. Yeah. It's something really, really simple, but it has a dynamic shift because in workplace culture, because we spend most of our lives in businesses under fluorescent lights, sometimes just around people, and we're so busy and focused. We're a goal-seeking culture. We spend all this time working on tasks, working on goals, and yet we never take the time to appreciate. And this is the reason why the younger generation, people say, well, the millennials, there's a lot of turnover. They're not, well, it's because they want appreciation. And really culturally, that's what we all want. They're just waking this up inside of us. So to be able to have a higher vibrational consciousness, to be able to spread and share love and appreciation. And believe it or not, workplaces are more efficient. They get more done. And it's actually measurable. Apple is a company that recognizes that every so often people need to get up out of their chair, go outside. I forget the time. There's a certain, but why? And all the accountants are like, well, if you add this all up, it becomes less productive. No, it became more productive. The human mind is more creative when they're able to break free from their computer, from their desk, get up, move around, talk with other people. So energy in a working environment is very important. And since we are the ones that can make the difference, as we start to practice this ourselves individually and within our communities, we start to make that difference as well. The other area is compassion. Compassion and forgiveness go hand in hand. If we are able to forgive, we can be more compassionate as a presence. We have the ability to shine our light more. We have the ability to make a difference in other people's lives. So even with, situations like what Fani went through and being able to look backwards and say, wow, that was a blessing. And to be able to overcome that and let that go, that individual, we're actually good friends with them now. With someone that's like almost, it's not only forgiveness, it's a person that was very important in our life. And even though the situation didn't come out the way we thought it was a blessing because it allowed her to grow. And of course, now she's out there getting people on dance floors, getting church communities up and singing and shining her light. And of course, inspiring others. You'll see sometimes there'll be like a little girl that'll come up and look at her sing. And I can picture the little girl someday with a microphone in her mouth, it's singing along because she saw somebody like Fani take the lead. So whatever you do, Bob with his music and his creativity, wherever you are, by being and understanding that divine essence that's within you, that special gift that you have, you are that perfect puzzle piece. And as you are mindful of being that perfect puzzle piece, ever try to jam a puzzle piece into the wrong place? It doesn't work. But when you become the thing that you are, and you understand the divinity and the love that you are, and you shine, you help all adjacent puzzle pieces complete the puzzle. That's how special you are. So compassion is the other key. And when we have that ability to have compassion, no matter what somebody is going through, or no matter what the situation is out in the world, right? Going back to the scenario that the we that are the many elect the few, want the change. Energetically, we know that we can create the change. We have the key within us. We have the consciousness that's within us. And so, what I want to share with you, a quote. This comes out of the research that was done at Princeton. And like I said, they're probably the one university that's probably done the most. It's not out in the mainstream, which is kind of weird. It doesn't get shared to us, but maybe they don't want us to know how powerful we are. So in 1998, they started documenting all these experiments. They would bring people into cities, and they would have prayer, meditation, raising the consciousness, bringing in love. And they would measure the amount of crimes. They would measure auto accidents, hospital injuries. The data was always proving itself. They had these random number generators, and these random number generators sensed this energy field. And it happened even during major events, even if there was no intention. Like when Princess Diana had died, these random number generators showed coherence, measured the human heart. And see, we're transmitters, whether we realize this or not. We have this energy to be able to transmit. We have this energy to receive as well. Many of us are empaths. We receive a gift, and that gift is the emotion or the energy of a thing or situation or a person and what they're going through. We're understanding. Those who can feel are those who can heal. So you're not only a receiver, you're a transmitter. I'll go into a workplace. And the moment I go into a workplace, doesn't matter what the owner is telling me, doesn't matter their profit and loss, I can sense when something's off. But then again, we're not only receivers, we're transmitters. So all this data that they worked with, over time, they became, and this is a quote that I want to share with you. It says, the outcomes, and this is the Global Consciousness Project, the outcomes of the Global Consciousness Project are good news, as they hint that we have the power to change the world through our intentions and our thoughts. If humans can reach a critical mass of synchronized positive emotions, we have the opportunity to change the world. Pretty powerful. A major university that documents this. The last thing is when you have the ability to not only heal thyself, to shine your light, you also have the ability to help others shine their light too. And as you recall, Toastmasters, I don't know if you're familiar with Toastmasters is a worldwide organization of helping people develop public speaking skills, public speaking and leadership skills. So I've been devoted to this. I was a stutterer when I was a kid, and so I had to overcome. I had a dad that pushed me into this, and then I decided that I wanted to be able to give back, so I mentor other public speakers. And every now and then, we do this youth Toastmasters, which is typically done at a middle school. It could be done at high school, could be done at elementary, but it's typically done at a middle school age. And the very first time I was invited for this, I had a friend that called me, Ron, how would you like to speak tomorrow? And I'm like, seeing myself on a big stage, like, how many people in the audience? What kind of motivation could I give them? Well, it's a class of 10 kids at a middle school. And we need to help inspire our program, like a mini Toastmasters within this middle school. And I'm like, first I started thinking, I'm busy, I got all these. But then I remembered, this is something that was kind of a gift that was given to me. And what special thing you can do to help, another person grow, get over the fear of public speaking. And at that age, it transforms their life. And as they become a brighter light, then they'll go off and transform somebody else's life. So I said, sure. And I came in, and we did this program, and basically they run their own meeting. They select a president, a vice president. They've got a person who's like the MC. They do impromptu. They do planned speeches. They schedule and they run it just like a regular Toastmasters meeting. And there was this one little girl, really, her name was Sheila, really shy girl. She just did every other task, but didn't want to get up and speak. She avoided speaking. And one of the days, I think it was the third time I was there, she came up and she had this crumpled up piece of paper in her hand. And she's like, Mr. Ron, and I knew she wanted to talk to me. Everybody else had left. And she's like, do you ever get over the fear of public speaking? Does it ever go away? That tension, that feeling of anxiety, the thoughts, the worries, the things that tell you, I can't do this. Do you ever get over that? And I'm like, I don't know if you totally ever get over it, but it gets better. You keep doing this, you get better, and then the more you practice, the more you get in front of people, the easier it's going to be. And then I kind of told her, I said, well, what's that paper? And it was a speech about my mom. You going to give it next time? She's like, sure. So we did a little fist bump. Anyways, long story short, my job, my life, everything kind of like went all different directions. I never got a chance to go back. An 8-week program was done. I talked to the other Toastmasters. They said she did well. Completely forgot about it. At the end of that year, I get a call from the principal. Now, I don't know the principal, but she's like, we're doing this special event. The parents are going to come. It's this evening. We're going to have, the band's going to be there, and we've selected 3 speakers, 3 of the better speakers from this group, and they said they want you there. And I'm like, okay. So I showed up. All the parents are sitting in the back. They walked me all the way up front, and they put me in this one little chair. And I look over, and there's the whole group of girls. Guess who was one of those speakers? Sheila. And when she stood up, and she actually looked, like a little taller. They grow at that age. But she stood up, proud as can be, and got up there and delivered a speech called How to Get Over the Fear of Public Speaking. I think when we realize it's our ability to help another person shine, no matter how we do that, maybe it's just saying, hello to a person, opening the door for a person, being random acts of kindness. Maybe it's because Bob has this gift, and just because he's sharing it here, he inspires music throughout other people. He inspires Fani. It's when we realize that, where we start, the whole adventure of spiritual awakening begins with where? Us. And when we can bring our better presence to the planet, individually and collectively, we have the ability to create that new day, that new way, that new heaven on earth. That power is within us. That seeds of greatness is within us. We have that. We just didn't know we did. Life is like, it's the analogy of how many seeds are within the apple. And how many seeds are within the apple is where we spend all our time and our focus. We argue about the nature of the apple, the number of seeds. It could be 7, it could be 8, who knows? It's about our government. It's about the person next door. It's about this situation not being right. It's the complaining, it's the blaming, it's the shaming, it's the energy putting on a current condition that we can change, because it's not the number of apples that's in the apple seed. It's not the number of seeds within the apple. It's the number of apples within the apple seed. We have that potential. You are the seeds of greatness. And through the intention of positivity, compassion, forgiveness, raising your vibration, helping to shine a light on others, your seeds can grow a vast number of trees with numerous branches, birthing many apples and changing the orchard of humanity. This is how powerful you are. It is the seed that grows and continuously grows. Namaste.
I'm going to invite everyone to sing along if you feel the calling. It's very easy.